Hello again, and welcome back to part 2 of my watercolour portrait painting lessons. This is the second part now, and it's all about applying the colour. We've done the first part, which is the drawing of the picture, which is a tricky part, but you just need a bit of practice at that one. And we're heading into the actual painting of the picture now, which is a challenge as well. It's really a question of interpreting the portrait and the features and trying to look very, very carefully at the subject to work out the lights and the darks and what colour it is. The other part that's interesting with watercolour portrait is how, well, really what style you're going to paint this in. There are so many different styles of painting a watercolour portrait, from incredibly loose to incredibly tight and high detailed. And I want to sit somewhere in the middle, really, maybe entering the more loose style. Or if you think of the knife edge, a little bit on the sort of more unrefined nature of it too. So I'm not really trying to put in too much detail, and it's really an interpretation that's the interesting part of it, how you interpret. Now, when you start the portrait and the actual painting of it, you'll have a sense of confusion of how do I go ahead, how do I move forward on this, and it's a tricky one to really explain. It's not easy, and it's something that you need to have a go at, really, and then you'll understand that you'll be faced with a drawing, and you have to work out the next stage, the next step, but also you've got to work at what style you're going to paint in. If you don't really understand what style you're going to paint in, it's going to be quite difficult to move forward because you won't know where to go. Whereas if you say, right, I'm going to paint it in a detailed way, or I'm going to paint it in a loose way, then you have a goal and you can move forward towards that goal. So I think you just have to have a few goes and see where your style suits. But this is going to be more of an impressionistic attempt. So here we have the portrait from part 1, all drawn out, so we're all ready to go. And I'm looking very carefully at Clara now. That's the first thing to do, is to look at your subject very, very carefully. You've got to really look at all the features and the colours and the values of it. So the first marks are the tricky parts, really. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the hair. So I'm going to start with the hair, but it's going to be a light wash. So the painting is not one wash, it's multiple washes. And there is a building up affair with a portrait, much more than a landscape, because there is more subtlety in it. So we'll start off with my favourite colour, which is cerulean blue. And we're going to put a wash on. So just pure cerulean blue. And I'm going to start with a little wash, starting in the hair, because it's daylight at the moment and it's a blue sky outside, there are blue tinges in the top of the hair as well. And I'm going to bring that into the skin. I think it's very important to bring colours together and to part one into the next. So here goes. Let's see the cerulean blue going in there. So, and then I'm going to use yellow ochre. So now I'm going to bring the reds into the picture. And maybe that's a bit too dark. Trying to keep the highlights free. And then going into the shadows with a slightly darker colour. And then moving on to the cerulean blue and bringing that in to the shadow area. And then going down the neck. A little bit of, maybe a bit of yellow there. So I'm still on the principle of working everywhere in the picture, never trying to just isolate it as not trying to work on one point. So then it comes down here into the neck, which I haven't drawn, into the neck. Okay, and then I'll put a little bit more cerulean blue into the hair here. So that's pretty much the first layer done. There we go. So I'm trying to bring the hair slightly into the rest of the picture. So I'm not trying to, I'm trying to let the colours connect basically. So the colour's going to connect from the skin into the hair. So that's the first layer. So I'll let that dry for a bit. So now I'm going to try and go into the values. So this is pretty much dry now. And as you can see, it's actually dried slightly lighter. And you have to bear that in mind with watercolour painting. What you put down doesn't stay the same colour. It soaks in, I think. The colours and the pigments soak into the paper and it produces a lighter tone. So you have to sort of bear that in mind. Right, okay, so I'm going to look at the subject matter really carefully now. I've got to really understand the colours that's happening. And I'm going to start with the eyes. I think that's a really important part. And again, the cerulean blue a bit. The red I'm going to come into. And trying to get the sort of the rounding effect is what we're looking for now. Again, the same mixing techniques that I've used before, where I'm not trying to over mix the subject. So I'm going to put some colours down on my palette. So that is a little bit of yellow ochre, which is a nice colour for the skin. A bit more, so that's some of that. The red's there already, and the yellow's here. So those are the basic colours of it. Right, here we go. So the next layer. So I'm going to bring a bit of those two colours, red and yellow, together. I quite like painting the forehead a little bit yellower. So moving it down the side, trying to add the blue. Remember, always paint the shadow as a blue colour. I tend to like it like that. And then down to the nose. So we're going to make sure that we soften edges on this. And we've got quite a dark. I'm going to paint the shadow under the nose quite dark. There we go. Always trying to change the colour. So sometimes the shadow's blue and maybe sometimes the shadow's a little bit redder. So you see these hard edges now? So I'm going to get rid of that hard edge a little bit. Fingers are always good for getting rid of excess water. And I'm going to get rid of that hard edge a bit. That's good. I'm always trying to, now I'm trying to get into the darker areas around the eye socket. Your observation skills have to be extremely good with portraiture. You've really got to look. And one of the things I notice with watching people paint is that quite often they spend a lot of time with looking at the paper and what they're doing, and I notice that they don't look up enough. So it really tells me that they're painting from their imagination, which isn't good. You need to paint from looking, not imagination, especially with the portrait painting. So now I'm going to come down the side of the face, which is quite yellow. It's reflecting from somewhere in the room. It's a bit too yellow. And then I'm going to change it to cerulean blue at the bottom. Underneath. So you can see there that the tones are beginning to come through now. The light's coming from this way, so this side is a bit shaded. Now I need to get rid of that harsh line there. Just soften that in. Okay. Now again, underneath the eye here, I'm going to give it a darker colour, maybe get that cerulean blue going again. Nice. Okay, I'm looking very, very carefully around the nose now, and I can see the shadows appearing. So there's a little shadow here. Soften that away. And then a little bit of cerulean blue coming in under the chin here. Okay, that seems to be a pretty good start there. So this part you can lift as well, so perhaps with this area here there's a lighter bit on there. So you see I've just cleaned the brush and dropped a little bit of fresh water into there, and I've lifted it away just to make that a little bit lighter there. Okay, so that's a sort of, it's quite soft really, and you don't want it all soft. You want hard areas and you want soft areas. So you don't want it to be all softness in a portrait. Even though Clara's young, she doesn't have lines on her face. I'm not looking to have it as a sort of perfectly smooth wash. So here's the first part of the painting pretty much done now, and I've let it dry for a bit. And you can see I'm beginning to get the structure of the face in, a few of the tones coming in, and it's sort of beginning to get the sort of rounded effect of it. So next we need to go into the second layer, and that, or maybe the third layer, and that is to start getting the details of the face done. So I'm going to start with the eyes, and then Clara has blue eyes. So this is the part where interpretation's quite interesting, in that how much detail am I going to include in this portrait? I always favour less detail. So let's see how that goes. Looking carefully at eyes, so there's a little bit of green in her eyes as well. So those are the colours I'm using. Right, so I'm not going to mix it up completely again. So I'll have a little bit of that colour and a little bit of that colour. Now, here go the eyes. So I can see just really final thinking about what's happening. So I'm going to place an eye in there and the other eye here. So there's that. Now I'm going to link it in with the rest of the eye. Coming in. See, that's the eye pretty much there. Now I'm going to try and soften the edges a bit, because I don't like that hard edge there. Not everywhere, but just a little bit softer there. There, that's pretty good. Okay, now I want to try and get into the impressionistic ideas of painting. And I don't want to soften too much everywhere now. Maybe add a little bit of trying to get the centre of the darkness in. That's good enough. Right, okay, another very careful look. Alizarin Crimson I'm going to place on the palette now. So you can see the colours are still quite separate. They're not really homogenised into one now. Okay, so the darker aspects. So you've got a little bit of the eyelid coming in here, and the other side as well. Now this is where you need to take courage and start putting darker colours onto it. Again, I'm going to go for this cerulean blue, and I'm going to start trying to place darker colours on. Because the nose is, I want the nose to start coming out. So a nice dark part here. goes into the eyebrow. And then bring down some reds. So I've got cerulean blue there, so now I want to counteract that with a lighter colour, with a more red colour. That goes into there. And see this line here? There's a strong line there, so I'm going to weaken that line. Not quite so strong, but I'm going to keep it quite strong, quite hard line the other side. And again, the other side. Now I'm going to go here. Maybe a little bit of red underneath. It's all very delicate, and it's really about observation, about looking as much as you can. Look, 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 look. My head is, when it's darting up and down from the painting back to Clara all the time. And that's one thing I notice within better portrait painters. Their eyes are constantly on the move, looking, checking, checking, checking. I've got a very good model in Clara here. She's very good at staying still.
Thank you very much.
She's excellent. Well done, Clara. See how the eyes are sort of coming out now. Now the next important part, I'll leave that for the moment. The next important part is the underneath of the face. I'm trying to get the structure of the nose in. So let's try that. Again, underneath the nose, I'm going to put a little bit of cerulean blue and red. And now we've got the darkness of maybe I'll try just pure red of the left nostril. Make sure I get it right, in the right place, over right there. Maybe that's nice. So maybe get a bit of softness at the bottom. Always looking to soften and harden and create the right texture within the face. Now I'm going to do a bit more cerulean blue and alizarin crimson, and I'm going to try and capture the side of the nose. Like there. So that's the line. So I'm going to choose to leave one half of it hard edge, and I'm going to get the other half to soften away. Dipping my brush in clean water just to soften it. Use your finger if necessary to damp off. Okay. Coming on, deep breath. It's quite an intense thing to do. It's super concentration, but there is a great satisfaction in it. And I think satisfaction is part of what makes painting enjoyable. You need to gain satisfaction from what you're doing. Under the nose. And then sort of lighter that side. Yep. Just keep on observing. Sometimes I go quiet, and that's because I really feel I'm concentrating on this. The subtleties of the nose are quite. I don't want to put too much detail. I want it to still be impressionistic. Now we get back to my most enjoyable part, or the thing that always makes me think about when I was young, listening to the TV and seeing this particular article about young artists. And we're going to head back to the philtrum in a minute. I've got this bit sorted. Now go back to the side of the nose, as that's what's pressing at the moment. So a yellow's going to come down here. I don't mind that sort of hardness there. I'm looking at that, I'm thinking that's okay, I don't mind that. Now I got distracted from the filter, and then it kept on going up. Yeah. And then just trying to work on the structure of the nose, and it goes across as well a bit. Trying to keep the highlights I'm trying to keep together. Okay. That's good. I like that. Okay, deep breath. You'll find that portrait painting has its stressful moments, and the art of it is interpreting what you see and placing it onto the paper. That's the real skill of portraiture. Right. So I've got that and I was quite pleased with that. And I'm pleased that I've got the ridge of the nose coming in. So that's the underpainting, the first wash. So you can see it's a nice pinky colour coming through. I like that. So now I am going to work on the philtrum now. So remember the philtrum is that little bit between the mouth and the nose. So I'm going to put a bit of red in there and a bit of yellow just to bring it out. And here's the philtrum coming in. That bit there. I like the philtrum. I think once everyone's heard that word a few times, you'll never forget that name of that piece of the body. It's the philtrum, maybe slightly less there. So it's lifting a little bit. If you see it's too dark, you just lift it back out again. Right, and now we're going to head to the mouth. And Clara has a full mouth. It's a family trait. Big lips, big mouths. Big smiling mouths is sort of inherited from my mother. So it's nice to see that coming down the family. Right, so the mouth is an interesting part, and it's going to fade in and out of resolution. Right, so it's red, it's blue. I can see blue in the shadows there, and I can see lovely pink colours as well coming in. So you've got to get the right shade. Okay, now then. Right, deep breath. we carry into the mouth. She's smiling now, so that's no good for me. Okay, lips together. That's it. Well done. Right, there we go. So that's the corner of the mouth coming in. There's a blueness too to the upper lip. So maybe want more blue than that. It really is blue, I see.
It's probably because I'm really cold.
That might be it. That might be it. Okay, so then I'm going to give it a bit more blue this side. Now for the lower lip. So I'm going to get some red, some clean red. A bit of yellow. And get some colours. See the colours there? Non-mixed colours. So I'm going to try and delve into those. See that I'm going to grab that part there. And here we go. And then down into the shadowy side. So nice deeper reds. Try and capture that. There we go. Maybe I'll fade that, just soften that a bit. So you can see that was quite quick, and I haven't really tried to put too much detail on there, but you sort of get the sense of what it is. So underneath the bottom lip, there's quite a dark shadow which I'm going to try and put in, which is going to be in cerulean blue. There. So here it comes. So that's the darkest shadow coming in. Okay, quite like that. And now going down again, there's the in between the jaw, the chin, it goes in a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit of colour there, and then that's going to go in just a little bit. That's a bit too much. So clean the brush and lift it off, dab it off as well. That's too much still. Right, okay, so it's moved on. So we need to start bringing in the shadows around the eyes and around this section here. So it doesn't quite match the nose, and it is definitely darker there. Right, But I don't want to make it too dark. So I'm going to use reds again, reds and yellows. Turn to there, yep, and then bring that down. And try and connect it up to here and the chin. Yeah, I quite like that. Now, coming back to the eyes, we're going to try and get the shadow of the right-hand side of the eye. And it sort of comes in the orbit here. Yep, and then there's a little bit of alizarin crimson. A little bit of alizarin crimson here, coming down here. Yeah, quite like that. Yeah. I sort of turned my head quite a few times just to have a look at it from different angles, rocking it away. Great, so that's pretty good. I'm going to add a little bit more darkness here, just to bring it in. Trying to work out whether that's too much. Might be too much.
Right. Okay.
Soften it down a bit. Okay. Now we'll head back to the other eye. And again, a bit of alizarin crimson, red. I'll clean my brush again. Okay, I'm going to give this area here, you know, where it slightly darkens in the eye, underneath the eye. So give that a little bit of a go. And then try and soften off here a bit. Yeah, I like that. I like it. Right, now, the last bit maybe is a little bit of warmth down the left-hand side of the face. So I want to have a little bit of yellow maybe. And then soften. So it's a trying to get the warmth out of the skin. Maybe soften that colour a bit. Right, so that's it. It's coming on quite nicely now, I feel. It's just a question now of sort of, again, looking carefully. I can't emphasise enough the art of looking carefully at pictures. It's a really important part of it. There are darker aspects in the eye as well, but I don't necessarily want to paint the dark bits because that might make the picture go much heavier. And this is a bit darker here, but maybe I don't want to make that dark. So I'm going to now have a look at the eyebrows. So I'm going to go into raw umber. I haven't used that for a while, so it's a little bit hard. Maybe a little burnt umber. So I'm going to give the eyebrows a little bit of a go. So I'm still trying to get the colour out. Trying to write a bit of blue in there maybe, just to darken it. Right, okay, the eyebrows coming in. So there we go, a bit of blue in there maybe, that might darken it down. So the eyebrows. And the other one, so again, blue and brown, I think. They're quite dark. Very dark one here, coming out. But not that dark. So, see, it's dark here, too dark here, so I'm going to soften that back. Soften that back. That's good. Okay, so, another look at Clara. I'm going to give a little bit more red to the right nostril. Nice nostril, Clara. There we go. Just going to give it a little bit of red there, just to make sure you can see its nose. That was nice. I like that mark. Right. And back into the eyes again, and I'm just going to get the pupil in. And then soften up here. Pupil in the other side. And soften. So as you can see, there's a lot of hardening edges and softening edges in portraiture. That's nice, I quite like that. Maybe that's a little bit, get rid of that. Now that's really made those eyes come forward now. I'm trying to get now to the corner of the eye, so a little bit of red for the very corner. Just that bit. And a bit of more reddy yellow to get this part here done. Just knock off some of the colour on my... I've got a kitchen towel here, cloth kitchen towel, which I wipe my brush on just to get rid of stuff. Maybe too much water, too little water, and just dab it with your fingers a bit more. Okay, that's that looking better. Now the lids to the eyes, eyelid, so maybe a little bit of sharp a bit there, coming down, sharp bit there, not too much. With getting the grips of it, it's really selective where I paint. I'm looking at it and saying, well, how can I make it better? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to use my mind as much as I can to work it out. Now for the lips again. So there's the centre bit here where the lips meet, which is a bit darker. So I paint that in red. Stronger red. Too dark there. Dab out with your finger if it's too dark. A little bit of red. Too much. It's quite subtle, isn't it? There's a lot of subtlety in the portrait. But as I say, it's incredibly rewarding. Now I'm going to have this picture of Clara done, and I'm going to look at it for years. It's unlike any other picture. This picture I'm going to look at for a very long time. And that's the pleasure of watercolour portraiture. You just don't see them very often as well, which is part of their pleasure. Right, so I think that's the mouth done. You don't want to overdo things. If you overdo things, that's not so good. Now, Clara has a little beauty mole about there. It's part of her character, which I'm going to pop in there. That's a bit too much, so I'm going to soften it slightly. There. It's amazing how you recognise Clara through a beauty mole. It's quite funny. Right, now we're going to have a go at the ear. So the ears they're quite almost invisible. They're not really that noticeable. So ultramarine blue and red, and it's a sort of, I'm trying to look where they are, and it's about there. It's quite dark there. So I'm not going to paint the detail of it. I'm not interested in the detail of it. I'm just going to hint at that's where the ear is. So that's the ear. That's good enough for me. Good enough for me. And there's another ear the other side. She's got two.
That's lucky.
That is lucky. So that's that ear coming in there. Yeah. Really nice. That's really coming on now. So now I'm going to get back into her neck. Now, one thing you'll notice is around here, there's a lighter area here. So I'm going to try and keep the lighter area. It's often around the jawbone, there's a light area there's like a reflection from the jumper, I think. So I'm going to keep that in. So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow and cerulean blue for this area. That's sort of right. And then there's the hair reflection coming in the other side. I'm going to soften that. And then it goes a little bit up here, there, so like that. Right, I feel I feel I'm really getting on with it now, and I'm pretty pleased with how it's going. So now the next stage of it, I'm pretty happy with the face, really. I don't necessarily have to do anything more with it. And I think it's important to realise when you're on a good deal. So if you place more on it, is it going to make it better? So those are the decisions that's going to have to come over your mind. Is it going to make it a better picture if I do more on the face? And at the moment, I think, well, no, not really. I don't think it's going to make it a better picture. There are lots more details in the face that you could put on, but should I? That's the question. So I've decided not to. Now, the next part of it is the hair. So I've got the basics of the hair underneath. She's blue hair at the moment, so it's just quite fun. And it looks quite nice at the moment. But I'm going to give her the more natural hair. Now, with hair, people make lots of mistakes, really. They try and paint it too literally. So what I'm looking at is masses of tone. So I'm not looking at it like it's a face. Sorry, like it's individual strands of hair. So I'm just going to clean some of this palette area up. Okay, just wipe it down. So this is going to be my area where I'm going to mix my hair now. So, going to do the dark areas first. So cerulean blue again, and maybe a cerulean blue there, and a bit of brown there, and a little ultramarine here. So those are the colours I'm going to pick on first, and I'm going to paint that. So pick those colours up, maybe a bit more brown, and have a last look at Clara, and then that's where I'm going to place that. That's okay, like that. Now I'm going to go back to raw sienna. I think that's a nice colour, and I'm going to put raw sienna here. There's a sort of light patch at the top, and then again there's another light patch here coming in. So I'm not trying to paint individual hairs. That's really not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to look at it, blur my eyes and look at it as a mass, much more than individual stuff. So raw sienna is a good colour again. Place that down. Looking at the reflected light coming into the hair. So it's quite a yellowy sort of colour on this side. There's a beam of reflected light from the buildings across hitting Clara's hair now. So I'm going to put that in sort of a yellowy sort of colour. Now there's a warm patch of the skin, so I'm going to make a bit more where the hair is creating a shadow. So I'm going to paste that in. So you can see it's red. Yep. Now underneath, so I'm just trying to follow the hair down. So I'm going to put, very nice. So it's a value study, this really. Not detail, definitely not detail. As you may know, I'm not a fan of detail. I do it sometimes, a little bit, but not too much. Okay. Back to the raw sienna. And little areas around here. To the other side. Get the darkness through now. The other side of the hair is much darker. Okay. You don't want to overdo the darkness. It's such a subtle affair painting a portrait. You're not necessarily painting exactly what you see in terms of tone or value. You're trying to use your sort of aesthetic judgment on it. Around by the ear. That sort of gets Clara's. So you can really see the face coming out now. The hair is tricky, without a doubt. You've got to be really cautious with it. more burnt umber for the other side. Okay. Yeah, it's a very, very tricky bit, this one. So I'm really trying to work it out. Trying to get the right line of the cheek. Yep. So I can see this area here is slightly wrong. So I'm going to lift that up a bit. Dab it with my finger. And then re-correct it so it's a slightly... Yeah, that seemed all right. Right, almost there, almost there. So just this other side of the hair now. Lovely little curl she has. Okay. Trying to get down to the... adding just a few touches of darker areas in it, just to bring out the curls. Yep, looking carefully always. One of the phrases I quite like is you do more looking than putting, i.e. you look much more than you actually paint. Yep, that's nice. Now we've got a little shadow of the hair coming down her side here. So I'm going to paint that in a light colour. I do a bit there as well, just to give the sense of its hair. Also got a little bit of shade coming into the right hand side here. That's okay. Looking good. Right, now for a little bit of the clothing to go in, and not too much. This is what I call a vignette. So it's just the hint of things really. So her jumper is a grey colour, so maybe a little bit of cerulean blue. So I'll put a little bit of cerulean blue here. Change the colour as well. So I'm not interested in just one colour of blue. It's quite nice, I quite like that. And then on the top of the shoulder it comes down. And then the V of the jumper comes down here. Okay, just taking a few good looks of it. And possibly the hair needs to come out a bit here. And we're pretty much there. Okay. Yeah, that's worked out quite nicely. Now, I might just leave the background white. Right. So that's the basic portrait done now, and I do recognise Clara in that. And the next stage of it really is just to do one or two little details of it. And the detail I enjoy most within portrait painting is the catch light in the eyes. So I'm going to use a little bit of white paint for that. So there's my white paint there. I always squeeze the white paint out last because it does tend to dry quite fast. Right, Clara. I'm going to put a little bit of white paint there and a little bit of white paint there. You see, that just sort of brings the whole thing out. It makes our eyes sparkle more. Now, I might do a little bit more as well. So I quite like to have a little bit of sparkle on the lip as well. So a little bit there and a little bit there as well, just to give that little sparkle. And I'm thinking that's almost done. Again, what I quite like to do as well is to maybe have a little bit of pencil mark on it as well. Often with my landscapes, I sort of enhance it a little bit with pencil. I just enjoy it, and it just feels nice to me. So I'm going to put a little bit of brushwork for the hair down there, and that. I think that's helped it a little bit. So here we have the finished portrait, and I'm delighted with it. I'm really happy how it's turned out, and I left the background white in the end. I looked at it and I thought, what did I do with the background? And I just thought I'll leave it white. It's nice and clean, and I'm happy with that. The face is strong enough for it to work that way, and it's colourful, and it's not. It's an interpretation. It's a simplified interpretation of the picture, and I'm really pleased with the blue forehead as well. You know, that's a bit unusual too. So that was the initial wash of cerulean blue which I left, and I also didn't make this side as dark as it was in the picture, and it's turned out really nicely. What I find with portraiture, and it's incredibly intense but so rewarding. I can't think of any subject that is as rewarding as that. And this picture here, I will treasure. It's going to be with me for the rest of my life, and that's what's so special about watercolour painting and watercolour portraits, especially of a loved one, a family member. That will go down the generations in my family in a way that a landscape won't. It will always stay with us. So if you can find a way of doing the portraiture, the reward is so amazing. So there we have it. It's a small picture, by the way. It's 10 by 7 inches. So here we have it. It's turned out really nicely. I'm really delighted with the picture. It's been a wonderful experience for me to paint that, and a very rewarding one as well. It's been a wonderful family event, all in all. Tanya behind the camera recording it, and Clara over there posing for it. It's been a very memorable time, and that's what's so great about portraiture. It's when you paint it from life, it is a memorable time. Very different from a photograph. When you take a photograph, you take the picture, and the next time somebody sees it's done. But this was a communal event, which is partly why I love painting from life so much. So thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure the girls want to say thank you as well and goodbye. And if you can subscribe, that would be great, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.